And welcome. This is Thomas Grant, and I am going to go over what happened last night at the Lakeview Village Council meeting and where we are going to go from here. So, to begin with, I'd like to thank everyone for being engaged and paying attention. What's happening up there in Lakeview is concerning. For sure. So I don't think it could be assessed any less than that. So let's get to it. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, there we go. Let's go over what happened. Now we get there, and I was there. I didn't publicly reveal who I was. I stayed pretty quiet and in the background, but we get there, the meeting starts. Thanks to Tosh Collins and Ella Showstall, they both supplied live Facebook Live videos of the proceedings from beginning to end. So if you were not able to watch it or to be there, you can go to Tosh's page and look at his live video from the meeting, and you can then go over to Ella's page and look at her live video. Tasha's phone actually died in the process, so Ella took over at that point. So it is out there for you to see with your own eyes and to hear with your own ears. So I think that's important. I want everyone to do their own research and do their own work. I mean, don't depend on anyone else to do this for you. But let's go ahead and review what happened. Now, number one, I want to get this out of the way because I've been hearing this rumor a lot, and I think it's funny. But I am not Tosh Collins. Let's make that abundantly clear. I live in Bell Fountain, okay? So yes, Tosh is someone who has helped me with information, and he talks with me and shares things with me, but, and I with him, but yeah, he's not me and I'm not him. So let's move forward from that. And the meeting started, they did all their stuff, the formalities of these meetings. And then I want to say 40 minutes into the meeting, 6:35 maybe actually. So not even 40 minutes into the meeting, they declared an executive session, which meant everyone from the public had to leave. And this executive session lasted well over an hour. I had to leave at 7:30. I had kids, and I had to be home for bedtime. I did not anticipate that they would immediately go into an executive session that early and make it last well over an hour. I think that is, I personally, and this is just my opinion, I think that was done as a way to try to weed out people who were there to question the mayor. Other people who have experience with local politics, local government, state, that normally the executive session is held at the end of the meeting so the public can get their concerns addressed in a timely fashion, and then they can go back home. So I do think that was not necessarily the proper way of doing it. So I was not there after the meeting resumed. I was able to watch it through Facebook Live. Let's go over the first thing that I think that they did acknowledge was a mistake. And that was, let's go over real quick the fire department. They did announce at the meeting that they have 3 people who are interested in becoming firefighters in Lakeview. And the council did approve that initially, so I think there's still some more paperwork to be done, but it sounds like there's 3 people who are going to join the fire department, and one of them or 2 of them have previous experience. The one lives in Jackson Center. The other 2 who were not at the meeting, I do not know where they live. So that is, that's the news concerning the fire department. So, they lost 7 people, including Norm Spring. So, gaining back 3, they are still well below the level they had prior to this whole dilemma or controversy. But they are gaining some people back, so that is a positive step. Now let's get into the statement from the village. Let's see here. There was Lynette Dinkler. She is the current solicitor for the village of Lakeview. She did a lot of the speaking last night. I think a lot of people had problems with that. Many people in the public, were a little concerned that most of the questions seemed to have been answered by Lynette Dinkler and not by the mayor. So yeah, and I was, watching it. I thought that was just a little odd, why the mayor would defer to her so much when it came to answering certain questions. Now, when they talked about the public release of from the village of Lakeview, where they talked about the 30-month investigation into Norm Spring, and they have no idea why the sheriff's department was called when the mayor was at the fire department 2 days after the tornado, and all kinds of stuff like that. That statement, and that was the statement that provoked the former mayor Ryan Showstall to be interviewed by me in that really crappy audio interview I gave everyone, which I really hate that happened. But they stated that the 30-month investigation was wrong. They said that it spanned a period of 30 months. That was their first reasoning. And they overlooked the explanation in the statement. Well, then at the meeting, it was revealed that someone stated that the investigation from the beginning to the end spanned 31 weeks. But at another point of the meeting, they said the investigation lasted 2 months from under Ryan Showstall when he was mayor. So they did admit that the 30-month investigation was wrong, but their explanations as to how and why that was mistaken really left a lot to be desired. They really didn't explain anything. They were questioned on, hey, did anyone proofread this statement before it went out? And they said, yes, there was. And when asked who was the proofreader, they said that was privileged information, which I felt was extremely convenient. And I don't know why that would be privileged. I mean, the impression that we have is that not all the members of council had any forewarning of this statement being released. And members of the public did state that they thought that was an issue, that any kind of statement coming from the village should at least be looked at by the council members prior to release. But, they really did not answer many questions when it came to that part of it. They just said, hey, we got the timing wrong. Pretty big difference in timing. A 30-month investigation is huge. It's 2 years and 6 months, a 2.5-year investigation. Then it says it spans a 30-month period. Well, that's a pretty big period too. And then it said it spanned a period of 31 weeks. Okay, well, that's still like 8 months, 7-8 months. That's a long investigation. And then, it's 2 months, really. I mean, the mayor said 2 months, I believe. Someone did at the meeting. And we know from the interview with Ryan Showstall, the former mayor, that it was a 2-month investigation. So their explanation on how that 30-month phrase got in their statement made 0 sense. The mayor was questioned on why she did not ask the former mayor, Ryan Showstall, for information after the tornado happened. She made it very clear that she didn't know what she's doing. She's inexperienced and she's learning and all this stuff. And there's never been a tornado I get all that. There's never been a tornado like this. But the question was, why did you not reach out to the former mayor for guidance? I mean, he was mayor for 20 years. And it seemed like she was going to blame Ryan for not reaching out to her. She said something like, well, he never reached out to me. But before she could really finish that statement, the backlash in that room was immediate. People immediately defended the former mayor and made it very clear to Mayor Moore, that's not going to happen. You cannot throw him under the bus for you not reaching out to him for advice. And it was made very clear to the mayor at the meeting that Ryan has purposely taken a step back to not interfere with the current administration or to be involved in any way. He understands he's not the mayor. He doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. And he has been very diligent in helping people quietly, but pointing them to the current administration. So for her to even entertain the idea of blaming the former mayor for not reaching out to her is ridiculous. And I think it's very enlightening to how she views the world. And there are certain people that, they can't accept responsibility and they always want to blame others. And I really believe, after witnessing what I've witnessed over the last few weeks and especially last night, that Mayor Elaine Fagan Moore, is one of those people that has a really difficult time accepting blame and responsibility. It's a simple question. Why did you not reach out to the former mayor? She could have said, well, he's the former mayor and I didn't feel like it would have been fair for me to reach out to him. Whatever. Make an excuse. But your excuse can't be, well, he didn't reach out to me. Stop. That's just not a fair assessment of the situation at all. And thankfully the public was there to immediately shut her down so she could not try to run him over. Now they were at this point the solicitor's talking most of the time. The mayor was talking about, she was actually talking when she made reference, or at least started to appear to make reference to Ryan did not call her. But the solicitor made most comments here, especially when talking about the statement. And she said that, there was errors, and it was people were overworked, and they were tired, and all these things, and that's why the statement was not accurate. They were asked, well, once you realize the 30-month investigation information in that press release was not accurate, why did you not issue a correcting statement to the Bellefontaine Examiner and Peak of Ohio? And they did not answer that. They dodged that pretty quickly. And honestly, that would have been a really easy fix. You call them up, say, hey, we made a mistake. Can you put a correction out there for that story so we have accurate information out there? But again, they did not answer why they didn't do that. Now, they were asked, have you reached out to Ryan Showstall and Norm Spring to apologize for that bad information being released to the public? And the solicitor, her response was, if Ryan feels like he needs an apology, he can call me and I will tell him I'm sorry. And then she did not even mention Norm, which I thought was very telling. But secondly, no, if you do something wrong and you do something that you need to apologize for, then you pick up the phone, or you get in your car and you drive to Ryan's business, or you drive to Norm's house and you say, with hat in your hand, I'm sorry. We put out the wrong information and I am deeply, deeply sorry for that. The solicitor tried to pretend that the statement was not negative towards Norm or the former mayor, Ryan Showstall. Anyone reading that I believe anyone reading that statement can honestly say that the solicitor was either out of touch when she said that statement last night or blatantly lying. They were trying to throw Ryan and Norm under the bus, and you just have to read the statement to believe that. But when questioned, they said, well, actually, it makes Ryan look good. No, it doesn't. Come on. And at one point, they did say, the solicitor made some kind of reference to, well, our intention of putting this out there was not to create more controversy. It was to settle everything down and just to put out the facts. Well, the facts you put out were wrong. So how is that going to settle anything down? And then when you make a mistake, you refuse to acknowledge that mistake publicly until the meeting. And then when you acknowledge the mistake, you're full of excuses. We're all tired. We're overworked. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of people are tired. Lots of people, are exhausted. Stop using that as an excuse for not doing your job effectively. And the solicitor eventually said that she didn't write the statement. I don't know if the mayor wrote this statement. No one would actually say at the meeting who wrote this statement that is packed full of untruths. And like I said earlier, when the people asked who proofread this document, they said it was privileged. Why is that privileged? Are you kidding me? They just don't want to answer questions. Now, there was a very compelling moment during the video where someone was in the crowd asking the mayor, and she told the mayor that she, has no respect for her. And the reason why is the Saturday after the tornado, this person at the meeting stated that she was in the firehouse when the mayor went in there. And this firehouse was full of other people, not just fire department personnel, but people there to help. People from different communities were there to help. And this witness said to the mayor's face that I heard how disrespectful you were to Norm. I heard you yelling at Norm. I heard you demand that the firefighters give you respect. And I heard Norm tell you respect is earned, not given. The conversations got heated and the sheriff's department was called. This witness said this to the mayor's face and told her, if there was enough members of the council here, I was going to ask them to remove you from office. But irregardless, your actions the day, Saturday after the tornado, was horrible and disrespectful. Now I'm paraphrasing, but she really put it out there, and this woman was an eyewitness to that. The mayor at no point disassociated herself with what this witness said. She did not say, no, I didn't yell at Norm. No, I didn't say that. No, she acknowledged it. How could she deny it? This person is a witness. And I want it to be very clear that I had this information out there from the beginning. And in the statement that the village released a little over a week ago, they made it sound like there was no confrontation at all. They said that they were there to do their job and to get a status update from the chief, and the chief was uncooperative, and they had no idea why the sheriff's department was called. That's a lie. They know why, because there's eyewitnesses there who seen the verbal confrontation from the mayor directed at Norm Spring. So that's another lie that they didn't address. When she was pushed on it, the mayor, made some kind of bland statement of, I can't control how your emotions control how you feel about me, blah, 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 blah. They were throwing it back on other people. Well, I can't control how you feel about me. Okay, Mayor Moore, let's explain, common sense to you. If your actions are so egregious that people are angry at you for what you are doing, then the fault lies with you, not with the people's feelings. Because that's exactly how she disregarded this person's statement, in my opinion. It was, I can't control how you feel, I can just do the best I can do, and blah, blah, blah. Stop that. Okay, stop. You know why people are angry at you, and it's because of what you have done. No one knew you before this happened. Nobody had this, there was no desire to not like you. Your actions especially since the tornado, has made the public aware that you have problems. You don't take accountability or responsibility for your mistakes. But she did mention that, hey, at one point in the meeting, my dad always told me, or maybe it wasn't her dad, but at her job before, she always said, you pat yourself on the back and give yourself kudos. She was really good at that. She's really good at patting herself on the back. And, honestly, I'm surprised she doesn't have a dislocated shoulder from how much she was patting herself on the back last night. The solicitor said, again, the statement was not meant to create issues. She did not feel like they threw Ryan or Norm under the bus. Again, read it, make up your own assessment. Now the previous meeting in April that WHIO showed up for, and there's about 40 or 50 people there. The mayor was asked about that, and they were like, well, it was never a public meeting. It was never a press release, press conference, whatever. I know where I got my information from. I can't release that, but I know it was from a member of the media who was made aware of this meeting prior to it happening. Number two, I know from sourcing that I can't reveal that other members of the media emailed or texted the mayor asking for an invite to this press event. And the response from the mayor that I seen with my own eyes, it did not say, what are you talking about? There's no press release. There's no press, availability for this meeting. She didn't say that. Her response was, email Lynette Dinkler for information. Wait a minute. If you knew prior to the meeting that this was a private meeting talking about HIPAA violation, HIPAA information, all that stuff, then why did you not respond immediately to that message to you days before that meeting? Why did you not respond, hey, yeah, there's no press, you can't be invited to it anyway, it's not available to the press? Why was your response, Mayor Moore, to have them contact Lynette Dinkler? And then Lynette, why did you not immediately respond back, what the hell are you talking about? There's no press release, there's no press conference. Stop it. Just stop. Your excuses now are ridiculous. You have to realize people know what's happening behind the scenes, and you have to know, if I know it, I'm going to share it because it needs to be publicly talked about. So that whole meeting that they said wasn't a meeting, but was a meeting, their excuses are ridiculous. And the public even said, why did you not put out a statement prior to saying this meeting is for first responders, it's, to talk to them about, the tornado and their emotional health and all that? The public would have appreciated and understood that. But they didn't put out any press release. I didn't get an email from Lynette until the night before saying there is no press conference, which, why did it take you 4 days to send me that? My personal opinion is that originally it was designed to have the press available because this mayor is really big on looking good. And once the public interest grew to where members of the public wanted to show up, they knew that if they had press in there, then they would also have to allow the public. So at the last, minute, the last day or so, they decided, well, we have to reframe this meeting so we cannot allow press in there. Because if press is allowed in, the public is allowed in. So that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe they're just really bad at communication. That could be that could be a really good possibility. But the way they played it doesn't make any sense. And then the public said, look, there's 40, 50 of us standing outside waiting for hours. You come out, you say nothing. You go directly to your car with someone walking you to a car, and you make a really quick statement to the reporter from WHIO, have a good afternoon. And that's it. And at first she tried to say, Well, I was exhausted, and that meeting was really emotional. Okay, that's great. I get it. But other people walked out of that meeting and they did talk a little bit. The mayor or the sheriff came out. He spoke to the public for a few minutes. One of the members of council came out and made a quick statement about Josh Oakley being the interim chief. That was the plan. So don't act like, stop. I mean, that's making an excuse. And then she kind of tried to infer that I walked out and it was like a mob of people. And then immediately the public pushed back and said, no one, there was one person there who eventually called you a name. Everyone else there was calm, cool, and collected. One member of the public said, we just wanted to get some information from you. We wanted to hear from you. You are our new mayor. None of us really know you. And we're struggling. And we need some hope at this point in time. Give us something instead of walking to your car and taking off like none of us matter. This was expressed to the mayor. And again, she really didn't address it. She tried to make excuses that she was tired, exhausted, emotionally, stressed out. It doesn't take much to say, hey, everyone, thanks for coming down. It was a rough meeting. I'm exhausted. I'm sad, whatever. I'll get back with you later. We'll have a meeting or we'll release something on Facebook or the media about what was discussed today. But we're working for you and we're going to push through this. That would have taken literally 20 seconds. So the public made it very clear to her that, number one, running out of that meeting and not talking to the public who's there. The public you're representing. Ignoring them was very disrespectful and people did not like it. And number two, the excuses you're giving are just that, excuses. I teach my 9-year-old son, don't make excuses. When you screw up, own up to your responsibility and move forward. This mayor is over 60. I don't know how old she is. She's old enough to know better. All right, maybe she's lived a life where she's been able to survive by not accepting responsibility for her actions. But those days are behind you, Mayor Fagan Moore, because now you're a public servant and people are going to be watching what you do and say. Another thing that was brought up, and they completely ignored it, says, why, when Norm Spring turned in his letter of resignation, it was dated for like the following Friday would be his last day. And it was determined at the meeting when he turned the paperwork in that they would accept his resignation and it would take effect immediately. Norm was not aware of this. I spoke to Norm. He said the garage doors were open, traffic outside. He did not hear that the resignation was to take effect immediately. He thought they accepted his resignation and he had until the following Friday until he had to stop working there. So then he ends up going back to work Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, all day. He's there working, no problems. Thursday morning, I go to Norm's house and I interview him. And I immediately upload it to YouTube. And literally, Norm told me this. He said, he pulled into the driveway at the fire department and was sitting in his vehicle listening to the interview. And the sheriff pulled up and they requested that he had to leave the property. Literally an hour after the interview was published. Norm had already been at work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when he was not technically supposed to be there. But the timing is very ironic that an hour after the interview is published, then the sheriff is contacted for him to be removed from the property. That doesn't smell right. And they were questioned about this, and they did not answer the questions. They really didn't. One member of council said something to the mayor like, yeah, I did say something to you, like this is taking effect immediately, right? Like not when it was written down. But no one advised Norm. Like a few members of the public said, if Norm's resignation took effect immediately at that meeting, why did not someone get up and say, Norm, let's go to the fire department and you need to get all your personal belongings because you no longer work here. Like, that would have been the proper thing to do. Why would you not tell him? Make sure he knows. And then secondly, why did you let him work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday? It doesn't make any sense. And the, solicitor, Lynette Dinkler, she did a really good job at saying a lot of words. I think they call it word salad, where you say a lot of words, but nothing really gets done. And there's no questions really answered at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now the mayor was asked, why did Connor Kinsley resign? He's the former solicitor. She was asked numerous occasions, why did he resign? The solicitor, Lynette Dinkler, said that the reason he resigned is privileged information. Now, I have reached out to other government experienced people, and they have said that Lynette Dinkler is wrong. The reason for the former solicitor resign is public information and is not privileged information, and it does not fall under the purview of attorney-client privilege. The solicitor is working for the village, not the mayor. Okay, now if we're talking about the mayor's personal lawyer, yeah, that's protected. We can't hear that. But this solicitor worked for the village, not for the mayor. And for them to continually say at the meeting that information is privileged was a lie and was wrong. Now, I have my suspicions as to why they don't want to acknowledge an answer to that question. I've heard behind the scenes, privately, why this person left. I can't say it. But the reason behind would not make the mayor look good. Let's just say that. So the person asking the question knows what the answer was, and they were trying to get the mayor to be forced to answer it, honestly. But they lied and said it was privileged information. Again, it's not. It's not my opinion. It's the opinion of people who have decades of experience in government. And they said, no, that's not true at all. My general overview of the meeting in the interaction with the mayor and the public was, number one, Lynette Dinkler did a lot of the talking. Number two, even though there was a lot of talking, there wasn't a lot of answers. Questions were ignored or avoided. They just started going into, what do you call that, when they just start talking a lot? There's a term in Congress for it. I forget now. But it's where filibuster. They just kept talking, nonsensical stuff that were not related to what was asked of them. It'd be like asking someone, what's your favorite color? And then they start talking about, they like to eat mud. It did not even relate to what the question was. And I think that was by design, because some of the questions they did not want to answer. That's my personal opinion. And if you don't want to answer a question, you just throw a bunch of words out there and hope people, they kind of get bored or they just forget about it. But I don't think they realize that people are frustrated with what appears to be a major lack of transparency and honesty from the mayor. And they're not going to go away. And this cannot be ignored. All right, this is an issue. 7 members of the fire department quit, including the chief, because of the mayor and some other people. There's a problem here. And they can point their fingers everywhere else. What's that old saying? You point your finger at someone else, you get 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. Now point with your hand, and you'll see what I mean. You got 3 fingers pointing at you when you point at someone else. That's a lesson they need to learn. Stop pointing the finger. Start looking in the mirror. And then start making adjustments to how you're conducting yourself. So that was my impression of the meeting. It was just not very effective at all. Questions were not answered. The former mayor's daughter was there, and she did a really good job standing up for her father and letting them know. She made it very clear to the solicitor, like, look, if you're going to release any other stories or statements in the future that concerns my dad, in his time in office, you need to reach out to my dad. He will talk to anyone. And the solicitor kind of, sidestepped that, but the point was very clear. And it was, stop writing these stories like your statement over a week ago, where you never even talked to Ryan Showstall. When all of this stuff was publicly available, and Ryan is right there in town. You can go talk to him. And you wouldn't have had this problem of having false information released if you would have went to the guy who was mayor for 20 freaking years and got his insight onto what happened about Norm and everything else. And, I interviewed the former mayor, and I'll tell you this, I asked him directly off camera, was there, you were, leaving office. When you left, was there any reason for you to think that Norm Spring could not continue to do his job as fire chief effectively? Like, if you would have been reelected, would you have, gotten rid of Norm or suggested he resign? And the former mayor Showstall said, no. Norm was doing a great job. I had no problem with Norm. So, they try to paint that this, Norm was under this cloud of suspicion forever leading up to the new mayor taking over. But the former mayor is saying, yeah, no, there were some issues that needed addressed, yeah, but nothing to the point where I thought Norm needed to go. I still trusted him, and he was still good at his job. But, let's go over some information and some comments from other people that I've reached out to. Let's go over Tosh Collins. I reached out to Tosh and I said, hey, what's your feelings of the meeting? You were there, et cetera, et cetera. Give me 1 second. I got to hit my vape. Holy cow. Smoking is bad. I'm sorry. Tosh's statements was, one, the mayor needs to speak for herself. And I think that is a very popular opinion after the meeting. The next thing he said is Tosh said, they're using the tornado as an excuse for their current actions. And that shows weakness. So they're doing things that aren't right, and their fallback excuse is, well, the tornado happened. And yeah, I can definitely see why that opinion would be out there. The Mayor Fagan Moore is scared of everything. Again, this is Tosh Collins' perspective. He made comment about the issue with the kid, the controversy last year, her going to his house and talking to him, and then the mother trying to arrange a time to meet with Miss Moore, and she refused to meet, said that she wanted to meet somewhere in public, blah, blah, blah. Didn't feel safe going over there. What? You felt safe enough to walk to this teenager's house and confront him. But then when the mother says, hey, I want to talk to you about this because you're talking to my underage son, knowingly that he was there alone, you knew before you talked that the parents weren't there. So when the mom says, hey, Elaine, we need to talk, all of a sudden Elaine's like, oh, well, we got to meet somewhere in public, and I don't want it to be nighttime. And excuses. It goes right back to her MO from earlier. Instead of accepting responsibility for a mistake, it's not my fault. This kid was throwing rocks, and I said something, and he cussed at me. I'm a boy. I'm a teen. At one point in time, I was a little boy. And did I throw rocks? Yeah, I sure did. Did I do silly things? Absolutely. I had a slingshot. I had lots of fun. I broke things that I shouldn't have broken. Sometimes I would be a little mouthy. I get, boys will be boys. Kids will be kids. I'm not excusing bad behavior, but that was her excuse. He cussed at me. He was disrespectful to me. So that gives me, I guess, the ability to be disrespectful to him and his mother. Again, lack of accountability and a lack of taking responsibility. And Tosh continued, another statement from him was, the solicitor is for the village, not just for the mayor. And the mayor, that was the impression many people got yesterday, was pretty much the solicitor is there as legal advisor for the members of council and the mayor, and to give them attorney-client privileges. So nothing they say can be discussed. The solicitor is hired to work for the village, not for the mayor directly. And Tosh continued, he said that the one ray of light was that the mayor had to hear comments from the public, directly. She was forced to sit there and listen to this. And that's actually, that's a good thing. Now, another statement we got from an anonymous source is, and they watched the meeting, and they said the mayor has no clue what she's doing. That was their opinion. Constantly having the solicitor take over. She dodged questions, dodged answers. You didn't give answers and dodged the questions. Questions were never answered. And in this one here, which is a very important part of what we're talking about here, this anonymous source said the emergency ordinances passed are invalid. According to Ohio Revised Code 705.15, it would require 5 of the council members to be there, and there was only 4. So with that, taking that into account, everything that they did last night, those ordinances that were passed, the way 705.15 reads, those ordinances would not be valid, and they would need to be voted on when you had at least 5 members of council there. I'm wondering if they think if they had 4 members of council and the mayor present, if that would be their 5. But I don't know for sure. I did email the solicitor a variety of different questions. And once I get a response, I will let all of you know. I did share that text in a message that I released earlier today, so everyone is aware of what is going on. So I think that's extremely important for people to understand that possibly what they did last night as far as passing ordinances is not valid. But we will continue to look into that. We will see what Lynette gives us as an answer. Now, the last thing we are going to talk about today is a former Lakeview Fire Department firefighter, Brandon Stevens. He gave me permission to use his name, and excuse me, I gotta take a drink. I can't pause the YouTube video, and I'm not gonna edit anything. So, you just have to deal with me having to take a drink, I guess. So Brandon, he was a member of the fire department, as I said, for 7 years, and he resigned not that long ago. Now, I did ask him for his opinion of the meeting and what he felt happened. And he said, he didn't get to see all of it, but what he had a chance to watch, this was his personal feelings. Zero accountability for the press release that was full of lies. Questions regarding it were basically dismissed. A lot of answers, mostly from the mayor and solicitors, a lot of the answers, mostly from the mayor and solicitor, were not really answers. They did a great job of saying a lot without really saying anything. And the mayor never misses a chance to talk about herself and likes to play victim. This was also apparent in the staff meeting as well. Oh, wait a minute, I just lost my message here. Here we go, sorry. My apologies. Facebook sometimes messes with me. So he went on to say, he said it's laughable how dismissive the entire council is on 7 firefighters resigning. I don't think they understand just how big of a blow that is. They lost about 100 years of combined firefighting experience. Now, he also directly disputes, and maybe I did not cover this, I may have overlooked it. The mayor said, in the fight leading up to with Norm, she was questioned, like, why were you asking for donated goods to be removed from the fire department 2 days after the fire, or after the tornado? And why would you have them moved? It was a great location, 2 entrances, and, it wasn't damaged out here, blah, blah, blah. And the mayor said, I think I asked 2 or 3 weeks after the tornado for those things to be removed. And I have 2 different firefighters, one that will remain nameless, saying no. It was literally 2 days later. And then Brandon said the argument at the firehouse was due to remarks made 1 or 2 days after the tornado, not weeks. Weeks after the tornado, there was a discussion about what was going to be done with all of the donations at the firehouse. And we wanted to make sure that we wouldn't be left with more donations than we knew what to do with. The ones handling the donations at the fire department did a great job managing the quantity and passing out nearly everything that was brought to them. And he said, my resignation was due to micromanagement from council members. They suspended Chief Spring without any explanation. The mayor has thrown her weight around from the moment she took office. She needs everyone to know she's the mayor and she's in charge. So yeah, number one, disputing what she said at the meeting. She requested that the donated goods be removed 2 days after the tornado, not 3 weeks later. I think it's very disingenuous for her to state it in that way. Now here I'm going to read Brandon's resignation letter he gave to the council. He shared this with me and gave me permission to read it. And it says, Dear Village Council members, I am writing to formally submit my resignation as a firefighter in the Village of Lakeview, effective immediately. The recent events surrounding the suspension of Chief Spring, a dedicated public servant who has served one community with professionalism and dedication for nearly 50 years, have had a detrimental impact on the morale within this department and has jeopardized the effectiveness of our emergency services. The subsequent fallout within the department has highlighted a lack of accountability and professionalism within the council's decision-making processes. As firefighters, we are entrusted with a critical responsibility to protect and serve our community, and it is disheartening to witness decisions being made that value political expediency over all else, as well as a blatant lack of respect and appreciation for the people that have put their lives at risk for the betterment of the community. Furthermore, the administration's dismissive attitude towards the concerns raised by firefighters and their consequent threats of resignation in protest demonstrates a lack of regard for the well-being of those who dedicate their lives to protecting our community. It has been an honor to serve as a firefighter in this community, and I am grateful for the opportunities and experiences earned over the past 7 years. However, I cannot continue to work under an administration with which my views do not align, and feel that my skills and dedication would be better suited elsewhere. I will make sure to fulfill any remaining commitments and assist with the transition process to minimize any disruptions. If there are any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me, and then he leaves his cell phone number. So that is a direct quote, direct reading of his resignation letter, laying out why he resigned. And this is a guy who'd been there 7 years. He's also a full-time firefighter at another location. This guy is a public servant. This guy is a freaking hero. Just like all the other men and women who serve fire departments around this country. And especially when you look at just what happened with the tornado and the devastating trauma and stress that all of these first responders are still going through. And literally, just a few weeks after that, just a few days after the tornado, you're going to rip the chief of the fire department's ass in view of the public because he won't move he won't move donations given to him by the public to wherever you want it moved. And he said why. If you listen to the interview on YouTube, he said no. If we moved the donations anywhere near downtown, we were just going to be in the way of the recovery efforts and the rebuilding efforts. So why would I want to move stuff down there? And he also said they were taking smaller amounts of donations down to that area for the people in that area. So they, yes, they didn't have cars. They didn't have access to the fire department, if they were immediately affected right there. But they were bringing the stuff to that area. They just did not want all of it staged there, which makes perfect sense. Like the public said, you really needed a few different donation spots and pickup spots because, make it easier for the public to get what they need. And that was the reason you wanted to raise a stink and a fuss and be disrespectful to a man who has dedicated almost 50 years of his life to that community? That's how you say thank you? We heard from numerous people that when she first walked in the door at the fire department as the mayor and introduced herself, because she made a comment last night that Norm said something like, you're not the only mayor that I've worked for and you won't be here forever, something along those lines. And she, apparently took offense to that. So that wasn't very warm and welcoming. Well, she did not go on further to say that her first interaction with the fire department officials was, I'm going to run this like a business, and if you don't like it, you can leave. And I've heard that from numerous people who worked there and was present when she said this. So for her to now play victim and say Norm was, what Norm said is probably what most public officials say who are not elected. They're professional public servants. Mayors come and go. I think the community was just lucky Mayor Showstall was there 20 years. But council members come and go. What Norm was saying was just the truth. I guess she wanted him to bend over, not bend over, but get on a bended knee and start kissing her foot because she is the mayor. I also heard rumors that she had people address her as Miss Mayor before she was even the mayor. Blankets made with, Mayor Moore. Campaign mugs and t-shirts made with her face on it. Remember, she did not run against anybody. There was someone who was trying to, but there was some kind of paperwork error. But still, we've heard lots of stories from people off the record of, I think this job to her is some kind of I don't know. She's very proud of herself. I don't think she realized the work that it was going to require. And then the tornado happens and even more work is required. And I don't think she was prepared for that. I did notice, last thing, she did hire, they did mention they have a floodplain administrator now. It's an unpaid position, but they have someone who's going to do that. I know from experience that there was a person who was trying to have a house rebuilt and they needed to get information from the floodplain plan administrator, who at the time was the mayor. Mayor Showstall was the floodplain administrator. He said, yes, you can hire one, but it's an unpaid position, so I just did it. And the current mayor was having questions asked about what needs to be done so this person can start rebuilding their home. And the Mayor Moore had no clue what she was talking about. And this person actually had to tell the current mayor, what forms she needed to fill out or send, or like this member of the public was telling the current mayor how to do her job because she didn't know. And I will tell you, and this is not privileged, I don't think, and I don't think he's going to care. I gave the information to that resident, and I got that information from the former mayor, Mayor Showstall. This person in the public was having issues getting the proper paperwork set up to begin the rebuilding process of a home. They expressed to me that they have emailed and called the mayor's office. They get no help. And they were told they need to get the mayor. The mayor needs to have papers signed and delivered to her for the rebuild to start. So I reached out to the former mayor and said, "Hey, can you give me guidance on what to tell this lady?" And he did. It was late. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And he sent me a bunch of, I kept him up later than I probably should have, but he was that willing to help. And he's not the mayor anymore. And every bit of information he gave me, I passed along to this person. And that's the information they used to tell the current mayor how to do her damn job. And even that was a struggle. And now, because I think being floodplain administrator was too much for her to handle, they did get someone to do it. So thank God, maybe this person who's doing it now can help expedite the process of getting these rebuilds started as soon as possible. But that's all we have right now. I appreciate everyone listening and talking and sharing and being involved. Everyone who showed up there yesterday or who watched through YouTube or Facebook Live, thank you for being engaged. The public servants work for the people. Sometimes I think they believe they are the ones in charge, but the reality is the public, we hire them and we can fire them. Have a good day and take care of yourself.